carefree, you know? Like,
yeah.
it was just like, you know, and then like, I mean, I'm sure people were aware of like how they felt, you know, like you know, when they were miserable, they were miserable.
Yeah.
But when they were happy, they were happy. But I think people like really got into the music, like I guess young people at least, like got really into the music and just like let themselves go, you know. And then like, you know, in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, like when grunge came out, like they I don't know, they kind of were like, okay, you know, that was excess like fun and stuff, but that wasn't like like they were just like covering things up with alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
Like if you ever like watch like any documentary on like hair metal, a lot of them guys like they I mean, how do I want to word this? Like, let me think a minute. They blew all their money. Like they're no longer like rich and famous. Like even Bret Michaels, like, you know what I mean? Like he makes shows like that. What's it called? Rock of Love.
Yeah.
Like those guys are like hurting for money.
Yeah. No.
They haven't done
totally
anything
agree.
in years. Like they blew all their money on big fancy houses, lost them because they they couldn't afford them.
Like
because they blew all their money on alcohol and drugs.
Like I can look at you know, looking at both sides of the picture when it comes to 80s music. Yeah, I agree with you when it comes to a lot of hairspray, makeup, and sex.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, because if you listen to any kind of documentary,
but I'm not done though. On the other side of things, I think that without that time period, we would not have the Scorpions. We would not.
Oh no, definitely not.
Judas Priest.
No, I mean like
obviously in mainstream hair metal is the top of the charts. Bon Jovi. You had you know, Poison. But let's be honest, Bon Jovi has a couple good hit songs. Poison has a lot of good hit songs.
Yeah.
And they were hair metal bands. So the fact of the matter is, every generation has its good and bad. Grunge was good for its own reasons, and it was bad for its own reasons. You know? Heroin was a big epidemic when it came to grunge music.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, we got the 80s music playing in the background from the Vice City soundtrack, and that just sort of triggered a lot of those memories when it comes to just 80s music. But I like every
song. I like 80s hair metal. I mean, that was like, all right, like when I was in sixth grade, I started like moving away from like any type of new wave music or like alternative, like 80s alternative music that I would listen to as a kid.
Yeah.
And I got into like more like grunge and like thrash metal, like, you know, stuff like that. And then by like the late '90s, early 2000s, I started giving like hair metal a shot, you know.
Yeah.
And I like it. There's some good songs. There's some good bands. It's just that I feel like I heard before, like, you know, 80s was a time of excess.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that really means.
Everyone was living free, skipping school, going to concerts,
partying,
drinking,
you
know, getting together and going driving around stuff.
Like, it's crazy. Like, I watched a lot of, like,
calling people on the phone, that, you know.
Yeah. It seemed like there was just a lot of parties, a lot of, like, just carefree, no worries, just have a good time, have fun. And I mean, that's nice. I don't think that sounds bad. No. I just think that, like, they didn't think about, like, they didn't plan things out. They didn't think about the future. They blew all their money. They
you know, they're stuck. That's why people say
party hard.
Stuck in the 80s, you know.
Yeah.
It's the best times of their life because it was so carefree, party hardy, and then it just all came crashing down.
Like, you ever talk to anybody who was in the hair metal band about, like, what do you think of grunge? What do you think of, like, you know, 90s alternative music, like early 90s alternative music?
Yeah.
And they hate it. They say that ruined what they were.
They loved what they
and what they were.
What was the best in their lives. You know?
Yeah.
The best
so I mean, you know, it's. I like that. This is what I like, right? I like that the 80s hair metal was very like, have a good time, enjoy yourself, you know. do what just comes natural, you know, do what makes you happy. And at the same time, I like grunge because it was no bullshit. It was, you know, straight up honesty. It was raw feelings, raw, you know, emotions that people probably had pent up and built up that weren't in the hair metal.
Yeah, that's
so they had nothing to listen to and nothing to.
Perfect transition into what I was
all
thinking.
That time, you know.
Well, when you say grunge, you think of classic Mr. Cobain, and what you just said is exactly how he felt at the time. He hated bands he felt they were so sexist too. He hated bands that were degrading to women. He hated these Bon Jovi bands. He thought it was so fake. He thought that everybody jumped on board to these cheesy bands because it was the cool thing to do at the time.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
It was the cool thing to have the long hair, the makeup, the hairspray. That's why there's this song Hairspray Queen. It's just making fun of that.
Yeah.
And with grunge music specifically, like you said, raw emotion, pent up anger, pent up just pissed off of the generation beforehand and how it ruined music in a lot of their eyes.
Like, I mean, really, when you think about it, grunge, you know, that kind of emerged from punk rock, and
it was more of an underground scene back then.
Yeah,
like punk rock.
Like they really just kind of like it was like 70s, 80s had nothing. They just kind of like wallowed in that 70s aftermath.
It's kind of a weird thought, like for me, because you know when I think 60s, I think Hendrix, Beatles, yada yada. You know, Woodstock bands, psychedelic, love, Summer of Love, San Francisco, and then the 70s. There's a lot of 70s bands that I really like that arrived during the 70s. Like you got the Steve Miller, you got the Doors, you have, I mean, Johnny Cash was big, Neil Young was big. I mean, the list goes on. And where it's like a blur. Well, not really a blur because I wasn't around, but thinking about music as a whole is when did this Hairspray party queen guy image, when did that just blow up and become this is normal? This is
like late
everybody
70s,
adopted it.
Late 70s, early 80s, like I was listening to an interview with Rat where they said that they were really inspired by how's the name of the band?
Yes?
Van Halen.
Van Halen, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that so.
Party fun. I mean, like he said in a lot of Van Halen songs, he's singing about what's that song? Hot for Teacher. It's all just party fun.
Well, I mean, that's Dede for you. That's what he's all about. You know?
So it's 80s were a weird time. Good and bad. Good and bad. I think that style was horrendous. But then again, even though.
Oh yeah, no, I would never get into long hair and spandex and
lipstick and
makeup. I mean,
eyeshadow.
I wouldn't have given hair metal a chance unless it was for your mom and dad. Because they kind of was here, listen to this, you know. Like I remember the first time they showed me the debut Poison album.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, are these girls or are these guys? What's this all about?
It's kind of hard to tell too.
It was, yeah, because I mean, I was young and I was like, what's up with this? Like, you know, what? Why do these guys look really girly? I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the only long-haired people I had seen at that point were anybody in grunge music or Metallica. You know, like
it was metal or some kind of Slayer or stuff like that.
Yeah, because I mean, when you had said that we wouldn't have Judas Priest, I kind of classify some bands like Judas Priest and I'm trying to think of at least one other band. I can't. Well, maybe the Scorpions, because I don't really see those guys as hair metal.
Yeah.
I see those guys as just metal, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Metal.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a difference. I feel like there's metal and then there's hair metal, you know? And
I think most people would agree with you. Hair metal is obviously all about the big hair, the hairspray.
You know, I don't really think that Priest had that. I don't think they were all about spandex and hairspray.
I wonder who was the pioneer of that. You know, maybe it was Van Halen. Or
that's a good question. I wonder who they claim that a lot of bands were really inspired by the New York Dolls because they wore makeup and they had long hair and they were in the I think what, mid to late 70s.
Now, is it true that most of these bands they were bisexual?
What, hair metal?
Well, a lot of these guys that dressed up as women, that wore lipstick, that wore makeup.
I mean, I've never heard that, but I mean, it could very well be. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, it would have to take some maybe possible curiosity to do that.
Obviously, it would make you wonder because,
I mean,
the fact that
anybody that would like go out and
the fact that
put eyeshadow and lipstick on.
I've watched old concerts and old '80s shows and interviews and stuff like that, and these guys were really trying their best. There was a peak. There was a peak in the '80s where it was almost hard. It was like a Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
It was like, you know how it's a big deal nowadays to transition into a female.
Yeah.
It was like that was their way of almost.
Well, there's been a lot of comments
back then.
Yeah, like there were a lot of comments where like ex-girlfriends of hair metal bands, like they would say, he was trying to compete with me to be like the prettier one, or I was like, or he would spend more time in the bathroom than I did, like, So yeah.
I mean, teach their own, and I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to define anybody's sexuality based off the way they look, but it's just the fact of the matter is it was just a confusing, weird time where guys and girls actually both wore makeup and both tried to look the same, and basically, guys started looking more like girls.
Yeah.
I wonder if the girls had the big hair first, or was it the guys that had the big hair first?
Girls.
And the what do they call them? What do they call it when you get permanent curls? Permanent.
Permanent?
A perm. A perm?
Yeah.
Perm. That's a dying thing.
Yeah, you don't hear anything about it. Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, God.
I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, the 80s was a very strange time.
But it brought a lot of good music. So if there's anybody tuning in or checking, comes back and checks this video out, just going to go over, all this is going to be is I'm going to go over a quick list, because I know a lot of people have asked, what games are on this Classics collection for the PS4 or the PS4 Pro or the Xbox? So many comments, so many people asking us, and it's just, it's hard to type it all out, so I'm just going to go ahead and just make a video where I'm reading off each and every one, maybe sharing a few quick opinions. So, this is the Sega Genesis Classics. I have mine for the PlayStation, and it's an ABC order, all the games that they have. I'm going to go ahead and read them off to you real quick over a nice strong bow. So here we go. To kick things off, we have Alex Kidd, which I'm sure a lot of you people are familiar with. A lot of people know of this game when they're talking Genesis. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with it. I think it's really cartoony. It's really, it has a charm to it, I guess. It's childish.
I feel very cringeworthy. I couldn't play it.
Yeah, it's cringe. It has a few moments, where you do get a special item, and it can be kind of more fun. But overall, it's meh. It's an okay game. It's not. There's a lot worse on here.
I'll put it this way: it's early Genesis.
Early Genesis. We're talking like Look, and it plays like a Nintendo game. Early.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. To me, it's an early Genesis game, so they were more or less trying to compete with Nintendo, because that was all. At that time, Sega wasn't trying to be the mature the console of the two.
So continuing, we have Alien Soldier, which I was playing here. I hate that I keep going back and forth, but it's a very difficult game. No extra lives.
I don't understand why Sega had made so many titles that gave you one fucking life, no continue. What was the point of that? They actually expected you to beat a whole game on one life. Yeah, I don't know, man. That is just... it's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous, guys.
There's no replay value in that, because you could I don't care, even if you... okay, you get the save feature on this. Mm-hmm. Even with a save feature, you really think you're going to beat a whole entire game on one life? That's really pushing it. I'm sorry.
This game is the Bloodborne of Sega, from what I played in this. Lots of enemies on the screen at once. The graphics are good for a Sega game, and it's like it's somewhat fast paced, and the weapons are kind of cool. But I don't like that you have to scroll in the game without pausing to choose different weapons, and there's so much coming at you at once, and you die very fast. It's a challenging game. I like it, but it's challenging. I haven't beaten the first level, so what does that say? Alien Storm. A lot of these games I don't know much about. It's confusing because it doesn't show you. Now, when you click one of these games, as you can see, press X to play, square to load your save, or circle to go back. It doesn't show you the case. You can't read about these games. There's no, for the most part, there's no screenshots.
Yeah.
The only thing I noticed is, it's a little hard to see, but to the right of X, square, and circle, you have L3, which I guess you have a Japan version. You know what? I didn't notice that. There's some games where you can switch between imported or different games. That's kind of cool. Maybe it's just different languages, though. I'm not entirely sure. But you can hit extras, and it'll show you scores. You can favorite your games, and it pushes them to the left. So there's little things like that, but no screenshots, so you can't see for yourself until you pop it in and play it. And no descriptions. So you just have to sort of go by the title and hope for the best. Altered Beast, obviously. I think, Barry, you were the first person I ever see play this game.
Yeah.
Fun. It's a fun game. You can tell it's early Sega.
Oh yeah.
The graphics aren't nothing to write home about, but I think there's something about this game that keeps people coming back, and I think that's just, it has a charm to it. And it's kind of fun when you transform into a different animal and you have different attacks. The bosses are kind of strange and weird, and the soundtrack's not bad. So Altered Beast in my book is a solid. If I were on a scale of 1 to 10 for Sega, I'd give it a 6.5. 6.5, maybe a 7 on a good day. It's not bad. It's not a perfect game, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's a good addition to the collection here. It's a little weird how they decided to shadow out some of these games, so it's really hard to even see the title, at least on the case itself. But this one's Beyond Oasis. Again, I'm not going to talk about games I don't know. A lot of these I have yet to play. But if you tune in to future live streams, I plan on going through all of these eventually. So just, if you could sub to Smash Temple, I appreciate it. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to tell people what to do. But, it's always nice to hang out and talk video games. So we have Biohazard Battle, Bonanza Bros. It's kind of fun.
I was going to say something funny when you were like, I'm not going to beg. I was going to say, join my Patreon.
That's all I gotta say. Join the Patreon, donate. I'm not gonna ask for no donations. Yeah. I'm not gonna ask for no subscriptions. I'd love to see you again. I'd love to see you back. I'd love to see your channel too.
Yeah.
But it's on YouTube nowadays, especially with all the gaming channels coming up, it's just hard to get discovered. So I'm just kind of going into this free flow, just hoping for the best, and we'll see what happens. My goal right now is 10 subscribers. I'm at 9, so I'm real close to reaching that goal. But, we'll see what the future holds. But we got Bonanza Bros, Columns. Columns is a good puzzle game. It's one of the only puzzle games on the Genesis that I think I've even played.
For them.
Yeah, it's.
I never got into those games.
Yeah. Bear here is into, what kind of, why don't you tell him, Bear, what kind of games do you prefer on the Genesis?
Fighting games, beat 'em up. Well, I guess, like fighting and beat 'em up, they're two different, yeah. Like Mortal Kombat,
I guess some examples.
Streets of Rage.
Streets of Rage, Golden Axe.
Anything Marvel related, there's even some DC that I would probably try that I never played. I mean, in the 90s, I was obsessed with comic books, so I played a lot of X-Men, Spider-Man, Punisher, Captain America and the Avengers.
Anything with a familiar face that was a fighting game or a beat 'em up with decent controls, graphics, the story. Bear was all on top of it.
I was just really big into the more darker, mature side of Genesis. I didn't get into platforms and puzzles and kitty shit. I didn't like any of that stuff.
Yeah, understandable. But Bear also knows and realizes that there's a big fan base for games like that out there.
Oh yeah, no, and I respect that.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a few games like Bugsy, was it Bugsy or Bugsy? I can't remember. Like, I had that. I didn't buy that game. My sister bought it for me for my birthday.
Yeah.
So I played it. It wasn't really like the very first game I ever got for Sega was Sonic 2, and that came with the bundle. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. It was all I had to play, and I had to play that because like I wanted something to play, and it just got so old and so I couldn't. I think the first game I bought when I was able to afford an actual game that I was gonna play and enjoy was Shinobi 3,
which is a classic. That's also appears on this collection. But we're going to be talking with Bear Man. You guys can't see him now, but in the future he will make his debut on YouTube, and you bet I'll be sharing Bear's videos, and you can check him out. He has a video right now on the Smash Temple YouTube channel where he's playing through some of these games, his picks. He hasn't played them all, but his picks for some games you want to try out, or some games he remembered for the Sega Genesis that appear on this collection here on the PlayStation 4. So you can check that video out. I'll probably add the link in the description when I get to that, so you can always click that and check it out. It's 4 hours long, so bring some coffee and maybe a cold beer and just sit back, relax, maybe put some headphones on and just enjoy some vintage gameplay.
Yeah.
But as I was saying with Columns, like, it's a puzzle game. There's not much to it. And like Bear said, it does get monotonous and boring, and he's not a big puzzle guy, but I played it a few times on the 6-pack, and let's be honest, it was the last game I played when I was really bored, and I just beat everything else, but...
I guess what it all boils down to is not that I'm trying to be ignorant, I'm just, like, I don't have the patience for Columns. That's basically all.
Yeah.
And I'm not very, like, smart with, like, colors and...
Changing
shapes and...
I think Columns will... That's why they might have darkened it out under the shadows. There's certain games on here they threw in there, but they're not sellers. Top sellers.
Like big hitters. Yeah.
Yeah. No Columns 2, but you have Columns 3. Again, we're talking Columns here. No one's probably very interested in what we got to say about Columns, but the point I'm trying to make is in this collection they do this a few times where they'll skip or just not include. A series. Like, they'll go from Columns to Columns 3. But what if you want to have the complete collection and have Columns 1, 2, and 3? You're not going to find that here. So if you're, like, really, anal and picky about that, you might want to stay away from this because it's not complete, okay? Just keep that in mind. It's not a complete Sega collection. I mean, you have some odds and ends and a few...
Kind of curious why they chose those two and not 2 and 3.
Makes you wonder.
Or 1 and 2. Like why 1 and 3?
It's like why did they just not include it? It's not like it would have took up much storage.
Yeah.
And as we'll see, there's empty shelf space. So I mean, we'll find out. Next up is Comic Zone. I streamed this a little bit earlier. It's like Alex Kidd. Love-hate relationship. I have some good nostalgia memories. It was one of the first games I ever played on an old PC, one of those beige PCs that had the space cabinet table, pinball.
It's a desktop. I think it was a Hewlett Packard.
Hewlett Packard, yeah. I mean, we're talking like probably early 2000s, late 90s when I first played it. It's a tough game, and you don't have any continues, and I don't know if you get any extra lives. In the beginning, they give you a potion, and if you use it, I don't know if you even get another one. I haven't gotten that far. It's a tough game. Crackdown, have never played. Dede Attack. I actually had this on my favorites at one point for this collection. I'm a big horror guy, and so is Bear, and I like that this is kind of like a graveyard-style side-scroller with monsters. I thought that was pretty cool, and it was actually pretty fun to play, so I recommend trying that one out. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, it's sort of a Sonic spin-off. I played it a little bit in the past. It's basically Columns, but with Sonic characters. That's all there is to say about it, and it's also extremely challenging.
That's actually interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was like a columns type game.
Yeah, yep, columns of Sega characters randomly, and they're like bosses. It's weird. Dynamite Heady, such weird names for some of these games. I've never played it, so if you guys, if there's anybody that has any suggestions of games that they see here that they're familiar with that they recommend, by all means, I would love to see you guys' recommendations and opinions of some of these games, especially the ones that I haven't played, like Dynamite Heady here. I have no clue what to expect, no clue what I'm going to see. It could be a gem in this collection that I love, but, your opinions are welcome here on Smashdown Pool. We have SWAT, City Under Siege. It sounds like it could be like a military-esque game. Even the sort of side art title looks like it would be like a military game. I'm not sure yet, though, but Fatal Labyrinth, a game called Flicky, Gain Round, Galaxy Force 2. Real weird, you would think that for the Galaxy Force, I'm assuming it's a series if it has 2, you would think that they would want to start you off at Galaxy Force 1, because a lot of these games didn't have much of a story back then, but it's like playing, it's like playing Streets of Rage 3 if you haven't played Streets of Rage. You're not going to know some of the characters, you're not going to know what the game's about. Maybe Galaxy Force 2 is a good introduction into the series, and I'm totally wrong, but where's Galaxy Force 1? Sega? I mean, it would have been nice to have the Pioneer game, the first game. You have Golden Axe, it's classic, everyone knows Golden Axe, one of the best games for the Genesis. Early game came out in 1988, and the graphics hold up for its time. The gameplay's solid, it's fun, I love the sound effects. The dragons are fun to use and sit on, and the different animals, creatures. It has a good, decent story. I mean, Golden Axe, I can't say enough. I mean, it's a good series of games. They're fun.
Yeah, I can remember us playing that game as far back as, you may have been, maybe, I may be wrong about this, but you may have been, 3, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And we were playing the 6-pack, and I remember we were always talking about the turtle that they draw on the map.
Oh yeah, I remember that on the map selection screen.
We just thought it was neat that there was a turtle, and I remember we always commented on how creepy the music was, and that's one thing I noticed that as the Golden Axe series went on is they kind of made the music a lot more cheerful or brighter. I don't know, because I remember that soundtrack for the first one being a very serious, ominous tone.
Dark, kind of scary,
especially when you get to the bosses.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Bear here. There's a few games in this where, like Streets of Rage is a prime example. When it comes to the soundtrack, and I'm a big fan of music in games. If you've seen some of my content on Twitter or whatnot, and even a few on YouTube, I try to talk about video game soundtracks and albums and stuff like that from time to time. And Golden Axe has one of those golden soundtracks. The first one, at least. It's very, it fits the tone so well because you're going back in time. Think Streets of Rage, but you're going back to the Dark Ages, basically. There's magic, it's a side-scroller beat-em-up with a nice variety of different enemies and great level design and music. Like I said, I can't say it enough. So far on this list, it's probably the best game in this collection that we've gone over so far in this video. You have Golden Axe 2 and Golden Axe 3. I played a little bit of both. Obviously I have a lot of nostalgia with the original, so I haven't beaten these games yet, but I like them. So I'm sure you guys love them. You know more about them than I do or Bear here, but I've played a few. I like how there's a panther in one of them. I think that's pretty cool. Cool character designs. When they added characters, they actually looked like they were kind of fun to use and unique, so I'm excited to try them out here for you guys on the stream. Gunstar Heroes. I feel like I've heard of this.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't know anything about it. So if you guys could fill me in, that would be awesome. So we're going to go to the left here and go to the right. And continue this here for you guys. We have Kid Chameleon. Don't know what to make of it. Landstalker. Light Crusader. Phantasy Star 2. No Phantasy Star 1. Again, like we said, but you have Phantasy Star 2, Phantasy Star 3, Generations of Doom. Phantasy Star 6, I think that is. The End of the Millennium. So we're jumping through games here at this point. I'm guessing Sega or some of the publishers, they had their own personal preferences as to what they liked as far as the Phantasy Star series, and they put them in here. They include the ones that they didn't like. Personally, when it comes to Smash Temple and when it comes to how I feel about games, all opinions and all reviews are opinion oriented. Some of my favorite games have gotten terrible reviews. So if you're going to try to throw your own twist on what games you want to present, include them all so they all have a fair shot to a new consumer, to a new set of eyes. Because for all I know, Phantasy Star 1 might have been my favorite. But I might have to buy a Sega Genesis in order to play that one. Ristar, Shadow Dancer. Barry, you were talking about Shadow Dancer earlier. Something I did not know about this that interests me, being a big fan of the series.
Yeah, as far as I know, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that I heard sometime, back in the day, that was intended to be part of the Shinobi trilogy. I don't know whether or not that's true, because there's no indication on on the case or the cartridge or any of that says Shinobi, but there's a lot of aspects to the game that more or less hint that it had at some, either it is or at some point they had the idea that they were going to go with that and include it in the trilogy.
Perhaps maybe what they did, and this could have been a money grab, I don't know. I haven't played Shadow Dancer, and now I really want to play it. Maybe it was an early development with the idea of being a Shinobi game, like you said. And then somewhere down the line, they decided, hey, let's try this, let's do this, and then it wasn't quite Shinobi anymore, so they just said, hey, let's call it Shadow Dancer instead, and make it its own game.
I mean, I'm trying to think, you
might have examples of some stuff you would see in Shinobi, but they,
Yeah. I mean, the outfit looks very similar. The you got the ninjutsu.
Oh wow.
You got the katana. I mean, you got instead of shurikens, you got man.
Throwing stars?
Yeah, throwing stars. Okay. So I mean, it's a little different, but it's
similar in nature.
It's very similar in nature.
Maybe like Shinobi's cousin.
Even the sound effects are very...
We'll have to try it out here on the stream and see for ourselves.
Yeah.
We have Shining in the Darkness, Shining Force, Shining Force 2, the best. This could be this is top 3 of my favorite Genesis games of all time, and I'm sure Bear agrees. Shinobi 3, Return of the Ninja Master. Now let me just talk about this game for a little bit. I streamed it multiple times, try to get a good speed run here on it, and Bear is really good as well at it. I mean, I first played this game after seeing Bear play for the first time back in the 90s.
I used to be a lot, as you will see in my gameplay, I couldn't get the double jump to work multiple times, and I would do the running slice,
yeah.
And I would either I had my timing off or the distance off, but I was falling short. Some
of the moves don't Bear hasn't played some of these games, including myself, in a long time.
Since
so
the Sega, since
it takes a moment to sort of readjust to vintage retro arcade style games.
It really
We're
does.
used to playing on the PS4 Pro.
Yeah.
We're used to playing high-end games these days, and the reason why we keep coming back to these games is they're nostalgic, and for that reason they're also they're fun. And Shinobi 3 is one of those games where the whole way through, granted there are some speed bumps towards the end, in my opinion, that slows the game down and kind of works against it, but for the most part, as far as the gameplay, fun, smooth, fluid. There's no hiccups. Everything feels fair. It feels like if you get hit or something, it was sort of your fault. So it just doesn't. It feels very balanced. The soundtrack is one of the best, and for a Sega game or just like video games in general, it's a beautiful soundtrack. I would love to own it. I can't say enough about it. The enemies are they look cool. The boss fights are fun and unique, and some are actually very terrifying and horrifying. But the level designs are great. The backgrounds, the scenes. I mean, it's a must-play game. I would say that for 99% of people that pick up this collection on their PS4 or Xbox or PC, if it becomes available, this is a prime showcase game for this collection. I highly recommend you boot this one up. You won't regret it. You have Sonic the Hedgehog, of course. If they did not have that, this wouldn't even feel like a Sega collection. Sonic's the mascot, man. It all started with Sonic. It's not dark like some of these other games, but Sonic's fun. I have fond memories playing the Sonic games, and there's quite a few on here. Obviously, they're saving a lot for the Sonic collection, including Sonic 3, I believe, I hope.
Yeah, if they didn't have that in the, since they don't have it on this, if they didn't have that in, in the Sonic collection, then something's not right.
That'd be very disappointing and shocking, to be honest
with
you.
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't know if I said these ones, but you have Shining Force 2, Shinobi 3, which we just talked about, Sonic, a staple, you have to play. You have Sonic 2, great game, better than Sonic 1 in my opinion, because I like that they include, I think his name is Miles, technically, but Tails.
His name is Miles?
Yeah, it's weird. How weird is that?
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Never knew that. I always knew him as Tails.
Yeah, I think his name's like Miles.
Wow.
But Sonic calls him Tails. Weird. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty
that
sure.
Would be pretty interesting. I'd like to know the story behind that. Like, why Miles of all names?
Yeah. Sonic 3D Blast is a weird... It's fun. It's a good Sonic game, and I highly recommend you play it. The graphics are just so different for a Sega game. When I say 3D, I guess technically it is 3D, but it might not be 3D in terms of like PlayStation 3D or PS2. And it's kind of, after a while of playing it, it can be sort of a sight, for sore eyes, because the ground is all checkerboarded, everything's sort of the same color. It's, in my opinion, it's not as good as the classic trilogy of Sonic games, but it is sort of an obscure Sonic game, and for that reason I recommend you check it out. It's strange. It's a love-hate relationship again. Sonic Spinball, I've never played it. It sounds kind of cool. I like pinball games.
Yeah,
pinball
I was
games
just going to say, I'm pretty sure it's a pinball game.
Yeah, I have some good fond memories with the Space Cabinet table we talked about earlier in this.
Yeah.
I remember there was Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy, and that was so much fun. I'm not a pinball wizard, but Sonic Spinball might be a good, introduction for me to get back into games like that. We have Space Harrier 2, Streets of Rage. Let's stop here and just talk for a second, because we are winding down here before we cut out this live stream. Streets of Rage, what can I say? Another golden prime example of why Sega did what Nintendo didn't, we can say. What Sega did what Nintendo don't. Streets of Rage was a very great side-scroller, beat-em-up, fighting action arcade style game. Let me just say the soundtrack is, again, one of the best in Streets of Rage, the first one here. I like that you can call in the police, and they can help you clear the screen of enemies. It had a charm to it. It just had a really nice charm to it. The weapons were fun. It was fun smashing things and beating people over the heads and suplexing them. It's one of the best. It's just one of the best. Period. Streets of Rage 2. We played a little bit. We streamed a little bit last night. There was definitely some improvements from Streets of Rage, the original. As far as improvements are concerned, the graphics took a little bit of an improvement, I will admit. Everything had a nice shaded look to it. You can make out everything a little bit better. But I do have some cons, though. They removed the backup, so you can't call the cop to clear the screen. I thought that was a big, cool thing in Streets of Rage original. I don't know why they would say, like, let's just not do that anymore. And it also was like, You know, it only took one button on your controller. Like, that button has no purpose now. It just kind of, I don't know, was a stupid... Someone dropped the ball when it came to that. But the soundtrack takes a hit. The soundtrack is similar to the first one.
Immensely.
Similar to the first one. But, like Bear said, it takes a hit immensely because...
I'll just say one word. Remix.
Remix, yes. Streets of Rage 2 is more or less a remix as far as the music to Streets of Rage 1. It's a fun game, but, you know, there are some downfalls. But speaking of music, Streets of Rage 3. Now, I've played a lot of video games. Bear's played a lot of video games. We grew up with video games. This wasn't just bleeps and bloops. This was pure nails on a chalkboard.
It's just nothing but like,
like just tinfoil mixed with nails, mixed with, it was just very screechy. Like someone was taking a drill and just drilling into your brain.
It's literally just like, like, I'm trying to think of the way that...
No. It's very chaotic. It's
very chaotic,
there's
scrambled,
no melody.
No melody, it's all just noises.
It's
like,
noises. And it's
it's scattered and like, it just sounds very like,
like a fuzzy TV that's
like it's
not
like
coming
techie,
in.
like very like
cybernetic
robot, like
but worse.
Techno mixed with like
dubstep. It was like techno mixed with dubstep mixed with like EDM. I wanted to pour acid in my ears. I wanted to shut off the soundtrack. I wanted to know if there was a way to mute it. It was just bad. And the music was so loud and overbearing that you could barely hear any of the sound effects from the game.
Oh, yeah.
It was just bad, and it didn't get any worse. And I love how the producer put his name right on the title screen saying he made this music.
Yes, I want my credit.
I want my credit. And once you boot this up, you're going to hear that music blasting, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. And you'll know that... if you're somebody who gets, headaches very easily or has very sensitive hearing,
mute it.
Either you're going to want to mute it or play this in silence, or you might just not be able to get past it at all because it does induce headaches, in my opinion.
Yeah, like there's actually a word for words for what that music or sounds are, and I can't think of what it's just gibberish. It's just like. It's just different like sounds all jumbled together.
I'll tell you what, just because we are winding down here, we got a little bit of treat at the end of the video. We'll give you a short sample of what to expect when you pop in Streets of Rage 3. But you're gonna have to wait till the end of the video, okay? It's gonna be over here in less than 10 minutes. If you don't have the patience and you don't care, skip to the end. But you'll hear for yourself just how scrambled eggs this soundtrack truly is and how it really defines this game.
An omelet of disease.
Yes, so winding down here, stay tuned for that. We have Super Thunderblade, and Bear hasn't played this one, but in my opinion, I haven't played some of these games yet, but in my opinion, I don't think it can get worse as far as graphics. It just straight up looks like, I don't know, a drawing. Like, the background just looks like it was just drawn on Microsoft Paint.
Basically like a stick figure made out of sprites, or a stick figure made out of like
There's one way of putting it here. Think early online games, like on Newgrounds.com, like the Flash games.
Oh, God.
We're talking that, but in the very early stages, where it was like they had there's the helicopter, but there's no animation. It just goes like it's one complete movement.
Oh, jeez.
And for the Sega Genesis, if I would have picked this up or played this as a child, I would have been highly disappointed.
Oh my god, the name's so dramatic. Like
Super Thunderblade. It sounds like it's super cool.
Yeah, and then you get super shit.
Super shit is right. Sort of Vermilion, not sure. The Revenge of Shinobi. Again, love-hate relationship. Actually, you know what? I don't even want to say love-hate relationship. There's one moment in this game that pisses me off, and I've never been able to get past this part, and that's why I haven't beaten it. It's obviously I believe the first Shinobi game. Right?
I don't know, it's weird because, like...
second, it's the revenge.
Yeah, like, it's weird. Like, there's,
maybe that...
at least an arcade version of Shinobi that I know of. And I think that came out first, and then I think this came out. And that's why I say I'm not sure about the, Shadow Dance, like, because...
Maybe Shadow Dancer was their first Shinobi. But then why would they mix them up like...
I really don't know. I'm kind of curious myself, like...
We'll have to look it up and talk about it in the next live stream when we play some Shinobi. I do want to do a live stream of Revenge of Shinobi because it is a fun game, guys. It's a little bit clunkier when it's stiffer.
It's like your movements
and it makes it, and because of those aspects, it makes it challenging. Like level 1 is challenging. Hitting the enemies, sometimes they dodge with their swords and you have to get behind them, and it has some puzzle aspects with unlocking certain doors and certain areas, and you have to go back and so it's a good game. I recommend you play it. I think you may like it, but it is challenging, and like I said, it's very stiff. Toe Jam and Earl, I know, is a huge following that loves Toe Jam and Earl. They have Toe Jam and Earl in Panic and Funkotron. I guess this is like slapstick humor, probably very early Rick and Morty sort of humor. Not for me personally, but then again, hey, I never played them, so who am I to judge? Maybe they're really fun and good, but from what I've heard, or from what I've seen, I guess Earl or Toe Jam burps a lot, and just he's very slobbish. He's a pig, and I just don't know how I feel about that as a sidekick.
Yeah,
it's like Ren and Stimpy. No one wanted to play as what, Stimpy or
did they have
Dum Dum or? I think they did. I'm pretty sure they did. I think Ren. Or am I thinking? Was Ren and Stimpy the mice that wanted to control the world? Minky and the Brain. Yeah. Which one was the Pinky? Was he this conniving?
He was the dumb one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Brain was the one with the huge head.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Pinky and the Brain, classics.
Animaniacs.
Yeah, Animaniacs, enough said. You have Vector Man, which I've heard had some of the best graphics at the time for the Sega. So I've played a few of them. They're okay. They're kind of fun, but I'm not a huge Vector Man expert or fan, to be honest with you. And there may be a reason why they're all the way at the bottom of the shelf. You have Virtua Fighter 2, and Bear played through this last night in the live stream. He actually beat it for you guys, and I played a little bit of it, and it was probably the worst straight up fighting game I've ever played.
Yeah, I was saying to myself while I was playing it, I kind of felt bad that I didn't have the mic on, because I would love to record the audio. I mean, because I had some really sarcastic, funny things to say about all the games I played.
But serious and truthful.
Yeah. Like, I literally just said I'd rather be playing Clay Fighters or Primal Rage at that point, because that game is just ass.
You heard it here, and you heard it first. This game is ass. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to disagree and hate on this because they say Virtua Fighter is the best.
And that's cool. I mean, if your taste is really plain and boring like that, but that's cool. I mean, like, everybody's different. If we were all the same, there would be no
no genres, no different, nothing branching out.
So I mean, I know that Virtua Fighter was like huge, groundbreaking. Like, I mean, that was like PS1 graphics before there was a PS1.
Yeah.
So it's all good. I mean, I just don't want. I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of games that you get like 8 characters or 7 characters.
Yeah.
And the graphics are very like
mediocre.
I mean, like, I remember when that came out in the arcade.
Yeah.
Like Virtua Fighter, and I was like, I wasn't really into it at all.
It wasn't Mortal Kombat, it wasn't Street Fighter, and it wasn't Tekken. It was Virtua Fighter. I think that they were jumping on to the fighting craze at the time, and in my opinion, it just wasn't. I just really wasn't enjoying it. Didn't have a lot of fun. The characters looked very bland, boring. Nothing really made me. Nothing really made one character stand out from the next. From what I've played, I didn't see any like sort of special moves. It was all punch kick, and it just wasn't for me. Just wasn't for me. So I think that for this collection, they thought to themselves, well, we need to have a one-on-one brawler kind of fighting game.
And I'm surprised because, the Genesis had a lot of fighting games. So for them to have picked that game of all, I mean, Mortal Kombat, Primal Rage, Clay Fighters, Street Fighter 2, I mean, like, there was just so There's more than I'm even mentioning.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just really, really shocks me. I mean,
that they chose probably one of the worst.
One of the worst, and one of like, I'm sure they probably chose it because I mean, it was like a big deal, like 32X, and you know, I mean, it was just it's probably why they chose it for the collection. But there's one game that I really liked that was a fighting game, and I don't remember. It was Samurai. I want to say Showdown. I'm not 100% sure, but it also came out for like the SNES. I think I'm not positive. Like, like my memory is just not 100% when it comes to
it's been a long time.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, like you know, Virtua Fighter 2. It is what it is. I think that, like Bear said, they wanted to showcase the graphics for what the Sega was capable of back then, and for that reason alone, it has some there's some things that raise the bar when it comes to this game. I'm sure it raised the bar for a lot of games to come and stuff like that, but it definitely needed some more polishing before this was released to the public, because it does not feel like a finished game. It feels like a game that you pay top dollar for, and once you beat it in, 30 minutes or so, you never play it again. So that's just our take on Virtua Fighter. You might love it, but personally, I don't know if I'm a fan. I don't know if I could jump in and enjoy it.
If I can remember correctly, a lot of those 32X games were a little bit more pricier than the regular Genesis games.
Jeez.
Yeah,
$80 or so, if not more.
I think it was like $60 or more, and like it just wasn't worth it a lot. Like I don't think they made many 32X games. Like it was a failed thing before they even
Nobody back then wanted to put more and more accessories on their Sega Genesis.
And Sega was just horrible.
And they were pushing for money. There was a lot of competition, obviously, and this was sort of an experiment for them that just might have brought some hype to the Genesis. But by then, PlayStation was right around the corner, and I have fear it was already too late.
Oh yeah.
So counting down here, we have 2 more games to go. We have Wonder Boy 3 Monster Lair. Very random. Where's Wonder Boy 1 or 2? Don't know.
Yeah, like I was really wondering about that when I first saw that. The only thought that came to my mind was Wonder Boy DC Comics.
DC Comics Wonder Boy? I mean,
I wasn't sure. And because you can't see the cover of the game, which is really annoying.
No artwork, no screenshots, no way of knowing what these games are until you pop them in and you play them. It takes a few seconds, but it's still. They could have included a way to check a screenshot, check the back of the case.
Exactly.
And that's just not there. And then you have Wonder Boy in Monster World, the last game on the bottom shelf before all this empty space where they could have put more games in here. Wonder Boy in Monster World. Who knows? It could be a great game. It might be one of the best on here. I haven't played it yet, but
I was tempted to play it last night. Yeah, for the stream, and I said,
Don't blame you. Again, it's sort of on their fault for not giving you some sort of preview of what to expect before you.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to know at least the genre of game. Is it an RPG? Is it a side scroller? Is it a racing game? You just don't know what you're getting into with this collection until you just try it out.
Put it in.
Yep. And by then, it's already kind of, it takes a few seconds, and if you don't have a lot of patience for just putting a game in, taking it out, putting a game in, taking it out before you know what it is, you might not be a fan of some of the pacing that comes with this collection.
Right.
But that's about wrapping it, guys. We're at 53 minutes, a little bit longer than I thought we'd go, but we had some good talks with Jared the Man, and so again, these are the games you got. I'm not going to go ahead and read through these again for you guys. If you want to, watch what we said about these games in the previous parts of this video, feel free to check it out, but we do appreciate it. And we're going to go ahead and kick things off with that terrible soundtrack from Streets of Rage 3. Take a listen to this, guys, and until next time, peace out. This is Smash Temple. Appreciate you watching. Subscribe, follow on Twitter if you'd like. And I also have an Instagram. I'm not going to beg for people like I said earlier, but it'd be nice to see you guys again. So just talk video games. But Streets of Rage 3 soundtrack. Do not play this game for the soundtrack. Here we go. Are you ready?
We are ready.
That was on a chalkboard. I hope I have some Tylenol.
Pretty much. I mean, we played this. We literally let this play, not on purpose, but just because we were busy doing something else. It played for probably about 5 minutes, and you know, I was just...
Let's just say it just loops this same sound over and over again. Dun 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 dun. That's what you hear for as long as we played it.
Yeah. And every song on every stage, it just
progressively gets worse.
Yeah.
It's like a bad train accident. A lot of metal, a lot of scraping on tin foil, a lot of just drills to the brain. It's very bad, and I do not recommend you listen to this if you just don't have something to take the edge off, guys. But as always, this is Smash Tempo. We're here with Bear Man. You know, give us a follow on PSN if you want to game sometime, and you know, we'll be busting out more of these videos. So until the next one, guys, you know how we do. Peace out.